Let my best friend move into my apartment after his divorce to help him get back on his feet, but months later I found out he'd been secretly dating my mom and planned to marry her, which turned our friendship into something unrecognizable overnight. I remember the night everything shifted, as it still plays in my head like some movie I never asked to watch. I was sitting on the edge of my old couch in my small apartment in Jacksonville, rubbing my face with both hands, trying to convince myself that helping my best friend was the right thing to do. My name is Eric. I am 23, and I had known Laron since we were 10 and running around the cracked basketball court near our elementary school. He was 30 now. I trusted him in a way I did not trust most people, which made what happened later hit me harder than anything I had ever lived through. At the time, things were pretty straightforward. He had just gone through a messy divorce. His wife had packed up and left him one afternoon, sent him a short message saying she needed space, then moved across the state before he came home from work. When he called me that night, his voice cracked in a way that made me stop what I was doing. He said he had nowhere to go. I didn't think about it twice. I told him to come stay with me until he got steady again. I thought it would be a few weeks. I did not expect months. I definitely did not expect what those months turned into. Laron moved in with 2 duffel bags and a defeated look in his eyes. I tried to treat him like nothing had changed. We played games at night, shared takeout, talked about his plans. I pushed him to look for steady work and helped him update his resume. I wanted to believe he was getting better. Most days, he looked like he was trying. Some days, though, he would just sit on the balcony staring at the parking lot like waiting for something to happen that never did. I did not push too hard. I figured he needed time. What I never expected was that he would want something that belonged to my life, not his. My mother, Mara, was 42. She lived about 20 minutes away, worked in a dental office, and had always been the calmest person I knew. She divorced my father when I was 13. He was a loud man with strong opinions and zero patience. She raised me alone after that. She was supportive but private. She visited sometimes with groceries because she said my fridge never had enough in it. She joked that I would starve if she didn't check in. I loved her. I respected her. I never imagined she would be part of something that would tear my friendship apart. The first time she met Laron after he moved in, it felt normal. She knocked on the door on a Saturday morning, carrying a bag of fruit and some chicken she wanted to put in my freezer. Laron had just come out of the bathroom with a towel over his shoulder. They exchanged a friendly smile. My mother asked how he was holding up, and he gave her a soft answer that made her look at him with warm eyes. Back then, I thought she was just being kind. She had always cared about people too much. It was one of her flaws and one of her strengths. She left after a short visit, and I did not think anything strange had happened. But that moment was the start of something that grew quietly in the dark where I could not see it. Weeks went by. Laron still had not found a stable job. He said he was applying everywhere. I believed him at first. Then I started doubting it when I noticed he spent more time grooming himself before going out. He would fix his hair, choose a specific shirt instead of the usual hoodie, spray cologne that he never used before. I asked if he was seeing someone, and he laughed it off. I figured maybe he needed a distraction. I did not want to pry. Things only got strange when my mother started visiting more often. She said she wanted to check in on me or drop off leftovers or see how I was holding up with a roommate. It sounded reasonable. She had always been involved in my life. But one day, I came home early from work and found the 2 of them sitting outside on the balcony together. My mother had her legs crossed, leaning slightly toward him, and Laron was speaking quietly with this gentle tone he never used with anybody. They both looked up when they heard my key in the lock. Something shifted in the air, and I could feel it, but I tried to ignore it. My mother said she had just stopped by. Laron said they were just talking. I forced myself to believe that. Then things got harder to ignore. Laron started going out at night. He would say he was taking a walk or meeting someone from an online job listing. He returned with a tired smile that did not match anything. My mother stopped telling me when she planned to stop by. She just showed up at random times. One night, she called me at almost 11, asking if I had eaten. That was not like her. She had never checked on me so late. I asked if everything was okay. She said she had been out running errands. Her voice sounded different, and for the first time in my life, I wondered if she was lying to me. But the moment that cracked everything open did not feel dramatic at first. It was a small detail that exposed everything. A single mistake. One Sunday afternoon, I noticed a receipt on the kitchen counter. It was from a cafe near the river, a place my mother liked. The receipt had 2 drinks and a dessert. I assumed it was mine and picked it up, but the name printed on the receipt was not mine. It was Laron's card, and the timestamp matched the same hour my mom told me she was at work that day. My stomach tensed up. I stood there staring at that little piece of paper as the whole world felt like it was tilting under my feet. Nothing made sense, yet everything did. I asked Laron about it that night. He froze. He didn't even try to make up a story. He looked down and said that he wanted to explain, which meant there was something to explain. My heart was pounding hard as I felt anger and fear and confusion. I was betrayed in a way I couldn't find words for. I asked if he was seeing someone. He answered yes. I asked who. He looked to the floor. Then he mentioned her name, my mother. My chest tightened so fast. I felt lightheaded. The room spun. I didn't say anything for a long time because my body was still trying to understand what my ears heard. He started explaining, as if that would help. He said they'd been talking for months. He said they connected. He said they understood each other. I couldn't hear him anymore because everything inside me just felt like it was breaking apart. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every memory I had of Laron and my mom together, trying to make sense of what I had just learned. You see, the thing was, I had always trusted him like he was my brother. We shared everything from stupid high school stories to secrets I never told anybody else. And my mom, well, she was the one person in the world I thought I could never feel this kind of betrayal from. But it was real. I started remembering the little signs I'd ignored, the sudden interest in his favorite bands, the way she stayed on the phone with him a little too long, how she laughed at his stupid jokes louder than anyone else ever did. I thought she was being friendly or trying to cheer him up. I was blind, or maybe I just wanted to be. The next morning, I tried to act normal, but every word he said felt like a lie. I asked him if he planned on telling me, and he shrugged as if my feelings didn't matter. He said he didn't know how to. My mom came by that day, and I could feel her tension before she even knocked. She walked in with that usual smile that now seemed like it belonged to someone else. I tried small talk, asking about her work and her week, but it felt hollow. I couldn't stop glancing at her hands, wondering if she had held his, if she had kissed him, if the laugh that sounded so familiar to me had been for him and not for me. I did not say anything. I just kept busy with laundry and dishes, trying to hide the shaking in my hands. Later, I went out for a run to clear my head, but every step felt heavy, like I was running through water. I kept replaying all the moments they had shared when I was not paying attention, realizing that I had unknowingly invited them into this secret world. I started asking myself why she, of all people, would do this. I mean, she raised me, loved me, protected me, always put me first. Or at least that's what I thought. Now I felt like I didn't know her at all. When I got back, Laron was sitting on the balcony, scrolling on his phone. I asked him how long it had been going on. He looked up, eyes tired, and muttered, "A couple months. Months I had shared my apartment, fed him, laughed with him, trusted him, and he had been hiding this from me." I swallowed back a scream and asked why. He said he couldn't help it, that he and my mom connected, that it just happened. My throat tightened, and I realized I couldn't even argue because I didn't have the words. Later that evening, my mom came in with a casserole and some bread she had baked. She acted like nothing had changed. I wanted to ask her why she was doing this, but my voice felt trapped in my chest. I left the apartment before she could notice the storm brewing inside me and went to a coffee shop across the street to sit with my thoughts. I felt like I had been punched repeatedly, not physically, but in every place that counted. Over the next few days, I started noticing even more signs. I had missed messages left on the kitchen counter, a small necklace she wore that looked familiar, hints of their shared plans. Then came the conversation that nearly broke me entirely. I had come home to find Laron pacing. He looked more serious than I had ever seen. He told me they were planning to marry. My mom had agreed. They wanted me to be okay with it before they even told anyone else. I laughed, but it was hollow. I asked if they were joking, if this was some kind of sick joke, but he shook his head. My mom walked in right then, carrying a stack of clean towels. She saw my face and said my name softly, like she was afraid to hurt me. I could not look at her. I felt like the ground had disappeared and I was dangling in midair. They started explaining that they loved each other and that I had to understand. I tried to understand. I tried to tell myself that they were both adults, that I should be happy for them. But every sentence they spoke felt like betrayal, felt like knives twisting deeper. I kept asking how they could do this to me, how they could not tell me sooner, and they just said they wanted to protect my feelings, that they knew it would be hard. Hard is what I call the moment I found the receipt on my counter. Hard is the fact that my best friend of 13 years was now planning to spend his life with my mother. I could not process it. I could not eat, could not sleep, could not even function normally. Each time I thought of them together, my stomach churned. Friends noticed I was different. I avoided them. I avoided my mom when I could. I stopped trusting Laron. I stopped trusting anyone. My apartment, once my sanctuary, started to feel like a cage. I considered moving out, But every thought of leaving was complicated because Leron had nowhere else to go. And it was me who had brought him in. I felt trapped by my own kindness, by my own past decisions. And I started replaying everything, trying to figure out where it had gone wrong. Was it me? Had I failed to be enough for either of them? Did I misread their intentions from the beginning? I realized that I could not talk to my mother about it. I could not ask her to step back without exposing the depth of my pain and anger. And Leron, who had been like a brother, a confidant, was now someone I barely recognized. Every conversation with him made me jittery. Every joke sounded hollow. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hit something, but I did not. I just sat with it day after day, thinking of the apartment, my mom's smile, his quiet tones. It felt like I was losing the people I loved most, and somehow it was my fault for trusting them. Then came the night I found the box of letters. I was searching for some old paperwork underneath my bed and came upon a small cardboard box. It was full of letters and little notes, and immediately, upon opening it, I realized that these were exchanges between my mother and Leron. Dates, plans, even discussions of marriage. They had been writing to each other for months, planning this secret life while I shared my home, my meals, my time. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold them. I read every line, every word, and each sentence made the room spin. I thought about confronting them. I thought about burning the letters. I thought about leaving everything behind. But mostly, I sat on the floor and tried to remember who Leron was, who my mom was, and if I could ever see them in the same light again. The trust one had carried for so long had shattered, leaving only sharp edges that cut through every memory. That week, nothing was normal. I avoided their glances. I avoided conversations. I avoided my apartment as much as I could. And deep down, I knew something irreversible had begun. The friendship, the relationship, the life I thought I had, they were all gone, replaced by something I didn't recognize and could not accept. I wondered if I would ever be able to forgive either of them, or even myself for letting this happen. Every night, I lay awake thinking about what I could have done differently, what I could have noticed sooner, what I could have said, what I should have done. And every morning, I woke to find them there, smiling, normal, pretending that nothing had happened. That act was almost worse than the truth. It felt like a cruel test, and I had no idea how to pass it. After that week, I started avoiding the apartment more and more, but it only made things worse. I would come back late at night, hoping they were asleep or gone, but I always found them together, laughing quietly over something I couldn't hear, sharing that look I used to know only belonged to family, and every time it hit me like a punch in the gut. I remember one night clearly. I was sitting on the stoop outside my building, my knees pulled up, trying to breathe through the panic and the anger. I thought about leaving, taking everything I owned and just vanishing for a while, but part of me knew I couldn't run from this. I had put Leron up in my apartment, had helped him get back on his feet, and now he was planning a life with my mother. I wondered how they could do that without feeling guilty, how they could smile at me like nothing had happened. I started noticing how my friends looked at me, how my social life had shrunk because I could not even bear to explain what was going on. They asked me why I seemed distant, why I flinched at certain words or laughter, and I lied. I said work was stressful, that I was just tired, that I needed space. Inside, I was unraveling. I began spending more time at the coffee shop around the corner, trying to pretend that the world still made sense. But every day, every encounter, every shared glance in the apartment reminded me of what I had lost. Then came the day when I overheard them. I had gone back to grab a forgotten notebook, and as I opened the door, they were talking in the kitchen, voices low, full of affection. My mother said something about planning a small wedding, asking Leron if he thought I would be okay with it. His voice softened as he said he thought I would eventually understand, that he wanted me in their life and not cut out completely. That was the moment something inside of me snapped. I slammed the door shut, marched into the living room, and demanded to know why. They looked at me, startled, like they hadn't expected me home. I don't think I even understood my own words. I was shouting, asking how they could do this, asking why they had lied, asking if they had any consideration for how I would feel. My mother said she loved me and that she hoped I would be happy for them, that they weren't trying to hurt me. Leron said he was sorry and that he never meant to betray me. But it was too late. The apology bounced off the walls and hit me in the face like cold water. I felt hollow, like someone had stripped away the foundation of my life. I went to my room, slammed the door, and sat on the floor, letting the anger, the grief, and the disbelief wash over me. I thought about calling my dad, but that felt impossible. I thought about confronting her parents, but that felt like adding chaos to chaos. I just sat there, feeling small, powerless, betrayed, and completely unsure of what to do next. That night, I made a choice to distance myself, to protect what little peace I had left. I started sleeping at friends' houses, skipping meals at home, and pretending everything was fine when someone asked. But every time I thought of the apartment, my mom, and Laron together, my chest tightened, my stomach churned, and I felt like I was drowning in a world that made no sense. As weeks passed, their relationship began to affect every interaction. My mother would talk about him in ways she had never spoken to me before, using words like we and our in casual conversation, and every word felt like a slap. Laron started acting distant when I was around, as if he were walking on eggshells. I couldn't even meet his eyes without seeing a version of my friendship that was now gone, a bond destroyed by secret feelings and quiet deception. I realized I didn't know who to trust anymore, and the apartment that had been my sanctuary became a prison I was too polite to leave. The bills, the shared chores, the very walls around me, all these brought back the remembrance of a friendship that had been turned into a battlefield. I started recording small notes, diary entries, trying to make sense of my emotions, trying to capture a record of what was happening before I lost my mind completely. I wrote about the little things they did, the way they laughed together, the small touches that had been hidden from me, and every word cut like a knife. I began questioning myself constantly, replaying memories, trying to see if I had missed the signs, if I had pushed too much, if I had cared too little. The guilt weighed on me almost as heavy as the betrayal. Then came the confrontation I'd been dreading. I caught them in the living room, planning some weekend getaway, and I just lost it. I shouted, I cried, I threw words at them that I didn't even know I had in me. I told them how they had stolen everything I thought I had, how I felt like my trust had been murdered in cold blood, and how I could never, ever see either of them the same way again. My mom tried to hug me, but I pushed her away, shaking, sobbing. Laron stood frozen, and I realized that the man I had called my brother for years was now a stranger in the skin of my best friend. I packed a bag that night. I didn't tell them where I was going. I just needed space, distance, time. I stayed at a motel on the outskirts of town for 3 nights, trying to breathe, trying to let the rage simmer down. But it didn't. It sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and cold. I kept thinking about what kind of relationship they had, how long it had been brewing, and how carefully they hid it. I wondered if my mother even remembered raising me, if Laron ever thought about the years we had spent together, or if that part of our lives had just evaporated from their memory because it didn't serve their future. I felt like an intruder in a world I had built, a world they had quietly, systematically taken from me. I didn't know if I could forgive them. I didn't know if I wanted to. I just knew I needed to survive the feeling, to survive the knowledge that the people I loved most had chosen each other over me, and that my life would never feel the same. I started thinking about moving out permanently, about finding a place where their presence would not be a constant, unavoidable reminder of what had happened. I realized that no matter how much I wanted to believe otherwise, the apartment, the comfort I had offered Laron, and the trust one had given were gone. I felt hollow. I felt betrayed. And I felt completely, utterly alone in a world that still moved on around me. I started making plans, quiet ones, to reclaim some part of my life, to take back control over at least one corner of my world. Because if I didn't, I knew that the next step would be losing myself entirely. I moved out a week later, leaving my apartment in Jacksonville behind, taking only what I could carry in a couple of suitcases and the few things that mattered to me most. And for the first time in months, I felt a little of the weight lift off my chest. I found a small studio downtown, somewhere quiet, a place where I could think without seeing them together, without feeling their choices pressing down on me every time I walked through a door. Laron called almost immediately, his voice tight and apologetic, asking why I left, begging me to come back, but I couldn't. My mother called too, tears in her voice, saying she never wanted to hurt me, trying to explain that their love had happened without planning, without malice, but the words felt hollow, like trying to patch a hole with paper. I blocked their calls, stopped answering messages, and for the first time in years, I focused entirely on myself. It wasn't easy. Every day, I wrestled with memories of shared laughter, late-night talks, the countless ways we had been a family, and the knowledge that they had chosen each other over me. I had to learn how to live in a world where my best friend was my mother's fiancé, where the people I loved most had betrayed my trust, and where the life I thought I had was no longer mine. I started spending more time outside, jogging along the river, finding small cafes where I could sit and write, trying to process it all in words instead of in pain. Slowly, I rebuilt routines, met new people, formed connections that weren't tied to the wreckage of the past, and began to understand that while my trust had been shattered, my life had not ended. I realized that forgiveness would take time, and maybe it would never come fully, but I could survive without them in the same way I had survived the divorce of my parents years ago, in the way I had survived heartbreaks and betrayals from people who had once seemed unshakable. Months later, I ran into Laurent on the street, him holding hands with my mother, smiling like nothing had ever happened, and for a moment, I felt the familiar sting, but I kept walking. I didn't want to scream, didn't want to cry, didn't want to remind myself of the pain that had once consumed me. I felt sadness, yes, but also this strange sense of relief, knowing my life was now mine, my choices no longer bound by the shadows of their decisions. I started accepting invitations from friends I had ignored, taking small trips, discovering corners of the city I'd never explored, and slowly, piece by piece, reclaiming parts of myself that had been buried under betrayal. I realized their happiness, twisted though it might feel to me, did not have to dictate my misery. I could carve out a life that mattered to me, one that existed independently of their secret plans and quiet smiles. And still, sometimes, I catch myself pausing, thinking of what could have been, thinking of laughter and late-night talks, of a world where trust hadn't been broken. But these are thoughts that fleetingly visit now. They are just memories, like shadows on a wall, a reminder that life can be messy, that people can hurt in ways you cannot predict, and that sometimes it is survival that means stepping away, even from those you love most. I know I will always carry a piece of that apartment, of those months, of that betrayal with me, but I have learned to let it exist without controlling me. I have learned life is messy, people are flawed, and sometimes those you trust most are those capable of hurting you the deepest. But there's still hope, light, the ability to build again something real. I can still love, still trust cautiously, still live without feeling I am a victim of their choices. I have taken that pain and used it for fuel for my own growth, for my understanding, for my path forward. And though I will never forget what happened, though the sting of that betrayal will always ache, I have also discovered strength I did not know I possessed, resilience I did not realize was inside me, and a voice I can now use to tell my own story, one that is mine, not shaped by anyone else's hidden desires or choices. I do think about them sometimes, wondering if they ever considered what I lost in their happiness, if they ever remembered the friendship, the trust, the years we shared, but it's not something I dwell on. I don't need the answers to survive anymore. I have found my new rhythm, my new home in my skin, and a quiet peace that comes from walking away without looking back, from reclaiming my life without needing their approval or acknowledgement. The scars still remain, emotional ones that will not fade quickly, but they're reminders I am human, that I have felt deeply, that I have survived the unimaginable, and that I am capable of moving forward. The apartment, the betrayal, the secret plans, and the quiet manipulations of love and friendship, they exist as a chapter in my story, not the whole book. And I have decided that the rest of my book will be written by me, for me, in my own time, in my own way. I will meet other people, build other friendships, experience love and trust again, but cautiously, deliberately, without letting the ghosts of Laurent and my mother haunt me. I have started to laugh again, enjoy small victories, embrace the ordinary joys of life, find myself within the quiet moments and mundane routines. I can cook my own meals, decorate my own space, and plan my days without fear of intrusion. And foremost, I have learned that boundaries are not just necessary, they are life-saving. And no part of me will always ache for what was lost. That ache is tempered by a knowledge that I am no longer powerless, that I have regained the reins to my world, and that I have survived a betrayal that would have crushed any person less determined. I look in the mirror now and see someone who is stronger, more aware, someone who has endured and will continue to endure. I have learned that people are capable of betrayal, but I am capable of resilience. I have learned that life does not stop for heartbreak, and sometimes the only way to preserve your soul is to walk away from those you love most. I have learned that love can be messy, friendship can be complicated, and family may get unpredictable, but still, you can choose yourself, and sometimes this choice is the most radical, most powerful, and most needed decision of all.